Ending, most people spend their entire lives setting goals. They write them down in fresh notebooks every January. They tape them to bathroom mirrors. They close their eyes and visualize the life they want. The house, the income, the freedom. And then they wait and wonder why nothing changes. I want to tell you something important today. Something I wish someone had told me when I was 25 and broke and full of wishes that never seemed to land anywhere useful. Goals are not the problem. The absence of a system is. I spent years chasing goals the way a man chases his hat in the wind, always just a little out of reach, always requiring one more sprint. And then one autumn afternoon, watching a farmer walk his fields at dusk, I understood something that rearranged every idea I had ever held about success. He was not wishing. He was not visualizing. He was not setting intentions. He was building. Stay with me today, because what I am about to share with you took me years to understand. And once you see it, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. The last distinction I draw for you today is the one that separates those who design a life from those who merely make a living. And I promise you, it is simpler than you think and harder than you imagine. Let me tell you about the farmer. He does not walk out to his field in October and say, "I wish there were wheat here." He does not tape a picture of a harvest to his barn wall and hope the universe delivers. He does not wait for motivation to strike him before he picks up the plow. In the spring, whether he feels like it or not, he plants. In the summer, whether it is convenient or not, he tends. And in the autumn, the harvest comes, not because he wished for it, because he worked a system, because he understood that the field does not respond to your feelings. It responds to your actions. Now here is what most people do. They look at the farmer's harvest, the abundance, the reward, the visible result, and they say, "I want that." And wanting is fine. Wanting is the beginning. But then they skip the planting. They skip the tending. They go looking for a shortcut between the seed and the harvest. And when they cannot find one, they call the farmer lucky. He is not lucky. He is systematic. This is the first thing I want you to understand today. A goal is simply a destination you have named. A system is the road you build to get there. And it is the road, not the naming, that moves you forward. I have met thousands of people over the years who could tell me exactly where they wanted to go. Precise, vivid, passionate. But ask them what they did yesterday. Specifically, deliberately, with intention. And they would look at the floor. The farmer does not look at the floor. He looks at the field. And every day he does what the season requires. Here is the question I want you to sit with before we go any further. What do you want? You already know what you want. The real question is this: what did you do today, deliberately, as part of a design system that moved you one step closer? If you cannot answer that, then you have a goal. You do not yet have a system. And that, my friend, is the difference between wishing and building. The seasons do not negotiate with you. That is one of the most important lessons I ever learned. And I learned it not from a book, but from simply paying attention to the world outside my window. The seasons do not care whether you are ready. They do not postpone winter because you had a difficult autumn. They do not extend summer because you failed to plant on time. They arrive, they do their work, they leave. And the question is never whether the seasons will come. The question is always, will you be ready? I have watched people wait for the right season to begin. They say, one thing settled down, I will start my disciplines. They say, when I feel more motivated, I will build my routine. They say, When the timing is better, I will make my move. D, but here is what I know. The man who waits for a perfect season to plant will starve in a perfect field. The seasons are not an obstacle. They are a teacher. And what they teach is this thing: life has a rhythm, and success belongs to the person who aligns their daily actions with that rhythm, not the person who waits for the rhythm to accommodate their mood. Now apply this to your own life. You have seasons too. There are seasons of learning, seasons of earning, seasons of giving, and yes, seasons of resting. Each one is necessary. Each one is temporary. And the person who builds a system understands how to use each season rather than fight it. The goal chaser fights the seasons. He wants harvest in winter. He wants rest in summer. He is always slightly out of sync with the natural order of things, and he cannot understand why his results never match his intentions. Then the system builder works with the seasons. He knows that winter is for planning and preparation. Spring is for planting new disciplines. Summer is for protecting and tending what he has started. And autumn is for harvest and honest assessment. I want to ask you something. What season are you in right now? And more importantly, are your daily actions appropriate to that season? Or are you trying to harvest what you have not yet planted? The seasons will not negotiate, but they will reward the prepared. Now, I want to give you the central idea of everything I have ever taught. If you remember nothing else from today, remember this: every action that will improve your life, every discipline, every habit, every small daily practice that compounds into something magnificent is easy to do. And it is just as easy not to do. That is the formula. That is the entire secret. And it is so simple that most people hear it and nod politely and then go back to doing nothing, because simple does not mean obvious, and obvious does not mean applied. Let me make it concrete. Reading 10 pages of a good book each morning, is that hard? No, it is easy. A child can do it. But is it easy not to do? Equally easy. You can skip it. Nothing dramatic happens. No alarm sounds, no penalty arrives. The day proceeds as normal. And that is precisely the danger. The formula for failure is not dramatic. It is not one catastrophic decision. It is the accumulation of small, easy neglects. A few skipped mornings. A few unread pages. A few conversations with the wrong people. A few evenings spent on entertainment when they could have been spent on education. Each one tiny. Each one seemingly harmless. Each one easy not to do. And here is what I want you to understand about the compounding nature of neglect. The man who skips his reading for one day has lost almost nothing. The man who skips it for a year has lost something he cannot easily calculate. The ideas he never encountered, the perspective he never gained, upstreaming the decision he made in ignorance that cost him dearly. The formula for success is equally undramatic. It is the accumulation of small, easy disciplines, practiced daily, without fanfare, without waiting for motivation, without needing to feel inspired. A few pages read, a few good conversations sought, a few dollars saved, a few minutes of reflection, each one tiny, each one seemingly insignificant, and yet compounded over a year, over 5 years, over a decade, they become the architecture of an extraordinary life. This is why I say, do not wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Because the disciplines are already easy enough. The question is whether you are the kind of person who does the easy things that most people choose not to do. That is the entire distinction between those who design a life and those who merely make a living. I want to be fair to goals. Goals are not the enemy. Let me be precise about this. A goal is a destination, and knowing your destination matters. The man who does not know where he is going will end up somewhere he did not choose. Goals give you direction. They focus your energy. They give your effort a target. But here is the problem I observed in 30 years of working with people who wanted more from their lives. They would set the goal, write it down, feel the excitement, make the declaration, and then wait for motivation to carry them to it. And motivation, as I have said many times, is a wonderful guest, but it is a terrible host. You cannot build a life around a guest. You need something more reliable. You need something that shows up whether you feel good or not, whether the weather is favorable or not, whether the world is cooperating or not. You need a system. Here is the distinction I want you to hold clearly. A goal says, I want to be financially free in 10 years. A system says, every morning, before I open my mail or answer anyone's questions, I spend 30 minutes studying the principles of wealth. The goal is the destination. The system is the daily architecture that gets you there. Now here is the critical insight. A man with a goal but no system will arrive at his destination only if circumstances cooperate. And circumstances rarely cooperate. A man with a system but no goal will improve steadily, but perhaps in no particular direction. But the man who combines a clear destination with a daily system of disciplines, that man is nearly unstoppable, because every day, regardless of how he feels, he is building brick by brick, page by page, dollar by dollar, conversation by conversation. The system converts intention into motion, and motion sustained over time becomes momentum. And momentum, my friend, is one of the most powerful forces in human achievement. So let me ask you this, and I want you to answer honestly. You know where you want to go. You have had the goal for some time now. But do you have a system? A daily architecture, specific, non-negotiable design that moves you toward it regardless of how Monday feels. If the answer is no, that is not a character flaw. Trading in, that is simply the next thing to build. And building is what we are here to talk about. Trading here is something I said early in my career that surprised people. And I believe it still surprises people today. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Now, I want to be clear. I believe in working hard at your job. I believe in showing up, in being professional, in doing more than you are paid to do, because that is how you eventually get paid more than you currently earn. Hard work at your job is not optional. It is the foundation. But here is what I observed. Most people give their best hours, their sharpest thinking, and their deepest energy to their employer. And then they come home, tired, depleted, and give whatever is left to their own growth. A few minutes of television, a few minutes of distraction, and then sleep. And I am not criticizing rest. Rest is necessary. The seasons include winter for a reason. But there is a difference between restorative rest and habitual escape. And most people, if they are honest, know which one they are practicing in the evenings. The system I am describing today requires that you carve out time, protected time, non-negotiable time, for working on yourself, reading, reflecting, planning, mending, learning from those who have gone before you, attending to your mind the way a craftsman attends to his tools. Because here is the principle I want you to understand. Your income will rarely exceed your personal development. Your relationships will rarely exceed your personal development. Your leadership, your creativity, your capacity to solve problems, all of it is bounded by what you know and who you are becoming. The job gives you a living. And working on yourself gives you a life. And the system I am urging you to build is not just a system for productivity. It is a system for becoming, then for growing into the person who can handle the life you say you want. Because I have seen it many times. A person reaches the goal before they have grown enough to hold it, and it slips through their fingers like sand. And so the question I want you to sit with is this. What percentage of your waking hours are you investing in becoming better? day, not in performing better at your current jobs, in becoming a better thinker, a better reader, a better human being. Even 1 hour a day, protected and consistent, will compound into something remarkable over 5 years. The system does not require grand gestures, and it requires daily commitment to the small acts of self-improvement that are, as I said before, easy to do and just as easy not to do. Now, I want to talk about something that is often misunderstood when people discuss building a system for their lives. They think of a system as something purely personal, a morning routine, a reading list, a savings plan. And those things matter enormously. But there is an environmental dimension to your system that you cannot afford to ignore. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I have said this for decades, and I will say it again today, because I have never found a more important truth in the architecture of a life. The people around you are not neutral. They are either pulling you upward or pulling you downward. They are either expanding your thinking or contracting it. They are either modeling the disciplines you want to build or modeling the neglects you are trying to escape. Now, I am not suggesting you abandon everyone who is not yet where you want to be. That would be cold, and it would also be unwise, because the act of helping others grow is itself one of the great disciplines. But I am asking you to be honest about the primary influences in your life. Who are the 5? And where are they going? Because here is what I observed. A man can have the best morning routine in the world, the finest reading list, in the most carefully designed daily system, and then spend his evenings in conversations that slowly drain in everything he built during the day. And negativity is not passive. It is active. It erodes. It whispers small doubts into large ambitions. Your system must include an intentional management of your associations. This does not mean you become cold or arrogant. It means you become deliberate. You seek out people who are doing what you want to do. You find mentors, in person, in books, in the recorded wisdom of those who have gone before you. You limit the time you spend with those who consistently pull your thinking downward. This is not selfishness. This is architecture. The farmer does not plant good seed and then allow weeds to grow unchecked. He tends the field. He protects what he has planted. And the people around you, the conversations you allow, the voices you invite into your mind, those are the soil conditions in which your system either flourishes or withers. Choose your associations with the same care you choose your disciplines. Because one without the other is a system with a leak in it. And a leaking system will eventually run dry. If what I have shared with you so far is speaking to something real inside you, if these ideas about seasons and systems and the 5 people around you are landing somewhere important, then I want you to do something right now. Subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here. Every week, we go deep in the ideas that actually change lives. Not the surface level motivation that fades by Tuesday, but the philosophy that becomes the architecture of a life you are proud of. And what I am about to share with you in the next section, the distinction between the formula for failure and the formula for success. That is the part most people hear and do not act. And the ones who do act on it, they are the ones who look back 5 years from now and understand exactly why everything changed. Stay with me, and let me tell you the formula for failure. And I want you to listen carefully, because it does not look the way you think it does. The formula for failure is not one catastrophic mistake. It is not one terrible decision that ruins everything. Most people are waiting for the dramatic collapse, the moment they can point to and say, that is where it went wrong. But life rarely works that way. The formula for failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. That is it. That is the whole formula. Simple, quiet, devastating. The error of not reading. Not one day, every day. The error of not saving. Not one paycheck, every paycheck. The error of spending time with people who diminish your thinking. Not once, as a habit. The error of going to bed without reflection, without asking yourself what you learned today and what you could do better tomorrow. Each error is small. Each one is survivable. Each one on its own means almost nothing, ending but compounded over months, over years, over a decade. They become the explanation for why a man arrives at 50 and cannot account for where his life went. I want to be honest with you about something. I made these errors myself when I was young. I was not lazy in the dramatic sense. I showed up to work. I put in the hours. But I was lazy in the quiet sense. I neglected the reading. I neglected the reflection. I spent my evenings in conversations that went nowhere and led to nothing. And I told myself it was fine, because nothing terrible was happening. And that is the cruelest part of the formula for failure. Nothing terrible happens immediately. The neglect feels comfortable. It feels like rest. It feels like you are simply enjoying your life. Until one day you look up and realize that the harvest expected is not there, and the field that should be full is bare. And the seasons did not wait for you to feel ready. Here is what I want you to do right now. Be honest with yourself. What are the small errors in judgment you have been repeating? Not the big failures, the small ones, the daily ones, the ones that feel harmless because nothing bad has happened yet. Name them, write them down if you need to, because you cannot correct what you will not confront. And the good news, and there is tremendous good news here, is that the formula for success is just as simple. And it starts tomorrow morning. The formula for success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. That is the mirror image of failure. And it is just as simple, just as quiet, and just as powerful in the opposite direction. Now I want to walk you through what this actually looks like in practice. Not in theory, not as an abstract principle, but as the daily architecture of a life that is being deliberately designed. The first discipline is reading. 30 minutes a day. No less. Not entertainment, though entertainment has its place. I am talking about books that teach you something. Books about the principles of wealth, of health, of human nature, of history. 10 pages a day becomes 3,600 pages a year. That is 12 to 15 substantial books. In 5 years, that is 60 to 75 books of wisdom sitting inside you, informing every decision you make. The second discipline is reflection. 10 minutes each evening. Not distraction, not television, not the scroll, but quiet, deliberate review of the day. What did I learn today? What did I do well? What would I do differently? This is the practice that converts experience into wisdom. Without it, you simply accumulate years. With it, you accumulate understanding. The third discipline is planning. Each morning, before the world makes its demands on you, take 15 minutes to decide what the day will look like. Not a wish list, a design. 3 things that must happen today. 3 actions that are part of your system, non-negotiable, already decided before the distractions begin. Now, I want to address something because I know what some of you are thinking. I have tried routines before. I start well and then I fall off. And I understand that. I have seen it many times. But here is what I want you to understand about falling off. The system is not destroyed by a missed day. It is destroyed by the decision not to return. A missing one morning is not failure. Deciding that missing one morning means the system is broken, that is failure. The farmer who misses a day of tending does not plow the whole field under. He goes back the next morning. He tends what needs tending. He continues. The formula for success does not require perfection. It requires persistence. Ding ding, and persistence is not a feeling. It is a decision you make before the day begins, and then again the next day, and then again the day after that. This is the architecture. And this is the system. And compounded over time, it becomes the life. I want to tell you about the ant. The ant is one of my favorite teachers. Not because the ant is dramatic or impressive to look at, but because the ant understands something about systems that most humans have forgotten. First, the ant never quits. Put an obstacle in front of an ant and watch what happens. It does not sit down and complain. It does not call a meeting to discuss the obstacle. It goes over it or around it or under it. It finds a way. And if that way is blocked, it finds another way. The ant has made a decision. At whatever level an ant makes decisions, that the obstacle is not a reason to stop. It is simply the next problem to solve. Second, the ant thinks ahead. In summer, the ant is not thinking about summer. The ant is thinking about winter. It is gathering, storing, preparing for the season that has not yet arrived. While others enjoy the warmth, the ant is building reserves. While others rest, the ant is working the system. Ending. Now I want you to think about that. How much of your current daily activity is designed for the future you want? Rather than simply responding to the present moment you are in, the ant does not need a motivational speech to go to work. The ant does not wait until it feels ready. The ant does not negotiate with the seasons or ask for an extension. The ant simply does what the ant does. Every day, in every season, with complete consistency. And here is the lesson I draw from the ant for you today. You do not need to be the most talented person in the room. You do not need the most advantages, the best starting point, or the most favorable circumstances. What you need is the ant's philosophy. Never quit. Think ahead. Do what the season requires. I have watched people with extraordinary talent accomplish very little because they relied on the talent instead of building the system. And I have watched people with modest gifts accomplish extraordinary things because they simply refused to stop. Day after day, season after season, they did the small things that most people considered beneath them or unnecessary. The ant does not consider any necessary work beneath it. None, neither should you. Here is something I want to address directly because I know it is on your mind. What about the things I cannot control? It is a fair question, and I want to answer it honestly because I have no interest in giving you a philosophy that ignores the reality of your life. There are things you cannot control. The economy, other people's decisions, the weather, the market, the circumstances of your birth. These things are real, and pretending they do not exist is not wisdom. It is denial. But here is what I know about the sower. The sower does not wait for a guarantee before he plants. He cannot know with certainty which seeds will take root. He cannot control the rain. He cannot control the birds. He cannot control which patch of ground will prove fertile and which will not. All he can control is whether he sows, and how faithfully, and how consistently, and how broadly. And the law of averages tells him this: if he sows enough, some will grow. If he sows more, more will grow. The man who sows little and waits for perfect conditions will harvest little. The man who sows faithfully in every season, in good conditions and poor ones, will harvest abundantly, not because every seed succeeded, but because enough of them did. This is the law of averages applied to daily disciplines. Not every day of reading will produce an insight. Not every conversation with a mentor will change your life. then not every dollar saved will find its perfect investment. But the system, the consistent, faithful application of the right disciplines, will over time produce results that far exceed what any single perfect day could have generated. Do not wait for perfect conditions. So anyway, do not wait until you are certain of the outcome. Act anyway. Do not wait till you feel ready. Begin anyway. The weather is not your responsibility. The sowing is. And here is what I want you to take from this. The system does not promise you that every action will succeed. Instead, it promises you something better, that if you act consistently, faithfully, and wisely, the averages will work in your favor over time. And the averages, my friend, are one of the most reliable forces in human life. Trust the system. Do the work. And let the seasons bring what they will bring. We are near the most important part of today's message. And if you have stayed with me this far, through the farmer, through the seasons, through the ant and the sour, then I want you to know something. You are not the average viewer. Most people click away long before this point. The ones who stay are the ones who are genuinely building something. And that is exactly the kind of person this channel exists for, if these ideas are resonating with you. If you feel like this is the philosophy you have been looking for, subscribe right now, because the conversation we are having here is one that continues every single week. And the next section I am about to share with you, the distinction between designing a life and merely making a living, is the one that ties everything together. Do not miss it. There is a distinction I want to draw for you now that I consider the most important one I have ever made. There is a difference between making a living and designing a life. Most people spend their entire working years making a living. They show up, they perform, they earn, they spend, they rest, and then they repeat it Monday through Friday, year after year, until one day they look up and realize that they have been so busy making a living that they forgot to design a life. Now I want to be clear. There is nothing wrong with making a living. You must make a living. It is the foundation. But it is not the ceiling. And the tragedy I have witnessed, and it is a genuine tragedy, is the person who mistakes the floor for the ceiling. Who works hard all their life within the boundaries of what they were given and never once sits down to ask, what kind of life do I actually want? And what system would I need to build to get there? Designing a life requires that you answer 3 questions. And I want you to sit with each one. First, what do you want your life to look like in 10 years? Not in general terms, specifically. Where do you live? What do you do each day? What does your financial situation look like? Who are the people around you? Be specific. Vague dreams produce vague results. Second, what kind of person would you need to become to live that life? This is the question most people skip. They focus on what they want to have, and they forget to think about who they need to be. The life you want requires a version of you that does not yet fully exist. And what does that person read? How does that person spend their mornings? Who does that person associate with? What disciplines does that person practice? Third, what is one small daily action, easy not to do, that you could begin tomorrow that would move you one step closer to becoming that person? Just one. Not 10. Not a complete overhaul of your life starting Monday. 1. Because the system is built one brick at a time. The man who tries to lay all the bricks on the first day will exhaust himself and abandon the project. But the man who lays one brick, well and truly, every day, that man will eventually stand before a wall that surprises even him. Design the life, build the system, lay the brick. Handing and do it again tomorrow. I want to close with a picture, not a promise, but a picture, because I think you need to see where this leads. Imagine a man or a woman who begins, not perfectly, not with every advantage, but with a decision to build a system instead of chasing a feeling, a decision to do the small things daily that most people consider optional. In the first week, almost nothing is visible. The reading is done, the reflection is practiced, the one daily discipline is kept, and the world looks exactly the same as it did before. In the first month, still almost nothing visible. But something is shifting inside. The thinking is a little clearer. The mornings feel a little more intentional. The evenings are a little more reflective. The person is, almost imperceptibly, becoming someone slightly different. In the first year, the change is visible, but only those who know what to look for. The reading has accumulated. The ideas have connected. The savings have grown. The associations have shifted. The person moves through the world with a quiet confidence that was not there before. Not arrogance, confidence. The confidence of someone who knows they are building something real. In 5 years, the compound interest of daily disciplines has produced something remarkable. The reading has become expertise. The savings have become options. The associations have become a network of people who challenge and elevate. The daily architecture has become simply the way this person lives. No longer effortful, no longer requiring motivation, simply the natural expression of who they have become. And here is what I want you to understand about that person in year 5. They did not become extraordinary by doing extraordinary things. They became extraordinary by doing ordinary things. The small, easy disciplines that most people choose not to do, with extraordinary consistency. That is the architecture. That is the system. That is the quiet, compounding power of deciding, not once, but every morning, to do the things that are easy to do, and choosing not to take the easier path of doing nothing. And I want to leave you with this. You have a field. Right now, today, you have a field. It may be bare. It may be overgrown. It may have been neglected for some time. Banding, that is not a judgment. That is simply where you are. But the seasons have not stopped. Spring will come again. The soil is still capable of producing something magnificent. The question is not whether the harvest is possible. The question is whether you will plant, whether you will tend, ending whether you will trust the system enough to show up tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. Not because you feel like it standing, but because you have decided that the life you want is worth the daily disciplines it requires. Ending, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And then, starting tomorrow morning with one small discipline practiced faithfully, begin to build the architecture of the life you were meant to live. If this message added value to your life today, if something here landed in a place that needed to be reached, leave a like right now. Not for me. One for the person who will find this video because you did, and share this with someone who is still chasing goals without a system. This is the message they need to hear. Prawning and Enda, drop a comment below and tell me what is the one daily discipline you are committing to starting tomorrow. I want to read every one of them. You came here looking for a better way to reach your goals. Now you know the system was always the answer, and the first brick gets laid tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching. The end screen has more videos in the same world. Go deeper there. Pick whichever video on the end screen calls to you. Keep building.